Okay, I will introduce myself for the people who might be watching this at a later time, because all of us here in the room know me, but I'm Karen Jury. I'm the textbook coordinator for Central Penn College and one of the librarians. So basically the textbook coordination logistics have been for the last almost 5 years housed in the library. Textbooks are one of those things that they're an important part of many college courses, but there's a lot of confusion, misinformation about the textbook process and what you can and can't do. So kind of wanted to hit some of the high points as far as what I think faculty need to know and some of them don't know or really understand, and then some more of that kind of extra stuff that we can do at the library to help ameliorate some of those problems. The number one thing that I think faculty don't always realize is that we have to offer all course materials students have to buy in the school bookstore. This obviously, 10, 15 years ago when we were all in school was a slightly different issue because there was no Amazon. You just went to the school bookstore, picked up your books, and that was it. I mean, it wasn't this, oh, well, that was the option. But now there's so many other options. I know I've talked with faculty, especially adjuncts, but with any who think, oh, they can just buy it on Amazon or wherever. Some students can, some students cannot. Especially with the population we have here at Central Penn. We have plenty of students, they don't have a credit card, they don't have a debit card, they have no money to discretionary money to spend on their textbooks. So the only way some of our students can buy their course material is they can use their financial aid, and to use their financial aid, it has to be available in the bookstore. That's the only way some of our students can buy their materials. And I just want to bracket this by saying we're totally not saying that you should make everything free. That's not possible in plenty of subjects, and that's not the best thing for plenty of subjects. I know the business department has been very happy with the content that they're getting from McGraw-Hill, which is using Connect, which is something the students have to pay for. But some of that is because the content that you use in business courses, a lot of that, they like to use case studies, a lot of that information you can't get without paying for it. It's not freely available. Or if it would be freely available, it would be illegal for you to access that and use that information. And that's one of the things that we in the library try to help faculty with, and the CTE, is using information legally. There are ways we can do almost anything you want to do legally, and we're happy to help with that. So that's kind of where a lot of this confusion, I think, comes from, is faculty think, oh, well, first day of class, I show up, I give them my syllabus, and the books are listed. And that's when they find out. I had students contact me yesterday. 2 different students asked me, what are the textbooks for next term? When they register, that's when they start asking that question. Now, there are some students who don't register until the end of week 11 and don't care about their books until they show up to class. But plenty of our students, especially because we at Central Penn have lots of non-traditional students, our online students, we have lots of our students who, they are right at that threshold where they have enough money to pay for things if they can plan. So that's another reason, in addition to the having to use financial aid, we want to have the textbook information to the students in a timely manner. So in the library, we are all about academic freedom. I've heard some faculty say, well, it's my freedom of choice to choose what materials I want for my class. Absolutely. Please, if you find material you want to use for your class, that's great. We want to support you in that. But we have to tell the students ahead of time what materials they are supposed to get so they can get them, so you can use them in your class. So what we're trying to do with having the textbook coordinator be positioned, be in the library, is to make sure that we can coordinate this information and get it to the students in a way that both the faculty and the students can work together to find this information. So, because the school bookstore is an actual store, and a lot of the materials we are still using are print, they need time, like any store, to get the print materials. They actually want the information earlier than we give it to them. So I've kind of, because of our compressed schedule, we've negotiated with them that they let us wait until around week 6 and week 7 of the prior term to give them the information. They would like it even earlier. So the bookstore opens week 9, beginning of week 9 of the term prior to the term we're talking about. So the bookstore for spring term will open the beginning of March. So the bookstore needs time before the beginning of March to get whatever materials we're going to have for the courses. In that vein, we can change books over, term over term. The bookstore may not like it. That's fine with me. If that's what works. We don't have to pick one book and have it set for the next 3 years. That's not the requirement. The requirement is just that for a given term, I need the information ahead of time so we can plan to tell the students. In addition to the bookstore opening, course information is also available to the students in the student portal when they look at their schedule. And that also is available week 9. So students don't have to use our school bookstore if they don't want to. That's another one of those ATOA regulations, which is, of course, part of the issue is we have to offer everything in the school bookstore, but students don't have to buy from the school bookstore. So they can buy wherever they want. And that's another reason that we want to give them the information early, is so that if they choose to buy it from Joe Schmo's Book Shack on the internet, that's going to take 3 weeks to get the book to them, they can do that. If you don't tell them until week 1 when they show up for class, and it takes 3 weeks, with our compressed term, you've lost a third of the class with them not having their book. So that's kind of where the whole textbook process policy comes from.
What is HEOA?
Oh, HEOA is the Higher Education Opportunity Act. That is the legislation that was put into place. I'm not sure how long ago it was. This is partially
2008.
Okay, 2008. Thank you, Kira. That basically lays out a lot of the. Basically, it's giving students information so they can make informed choices about their college education. Largely, has to do with money. So it has to do with how much is the tuition of the school, what are the fees of the school, what's the true cost of attendance. That's something that came out of the HEOA regulations. HEOA regulations would like to have the book information for textbooks available when students register for classes. And as I said, I had students ask me yesterday. We got a chat through our library online chat. Are you going to have the books on reserve for these courses for next term? And I'm like, well, some of those I don't even know what the books are going to be. So then I told the student what the timeline is. But yet, and the students want to know these things. So this is why we work on this. So I'm going to move on from that. Let's see. Just want to show what I have up here on the screen. Some people probably don't even realize that we have this as part of our library guides. Most of our library guides are information for students, resources for students that the library has, and some other resources for them. But we also have, the CTE has a number of guides on the same platform with information for faculty. And one of the guides that's kind of been this is mostly one that the library put together. It's library resources for faculty. And one of the tabs on here is textbook procedures. So all of this information that I'm talking about is actually on here on this faculty resources and services. So that's where I have the background about why we have these policies and these timelines. So Sam, if you can scroll down a little bit. So here's the list of the deadlines. So when course registration opens is when I start looking at what information we have about what books courses have used in the past. And once registration closes, that's when I try to get as much of the book information to the bookstore as possible. And again, that still only gives them 2 weeks from when I give them the information to when the store opens. That's right. So we should not be, once we hit week 9, we should not be trying to change any of the book information. Because as soon as the students are told these are the books that are being used for your class, some of them buy them right away. Some of them buy them during the first week they're open. A lot of students buy them when the financial aid vouchers are available. The financial aid vouchers are available week 11. That's usually the biggest single time, because we've done this, we've looked at the stats, the biggest single time for students to purchase their books is when the financial aid vouchers open, because that's how a lot of students pay for them. So if we're talking about changing books anytime after the bookstore opens, that causes huge problems. We did have this where there was an issue, the faculty, the class staff had to change. That was not, like, they didn't do anything as far as, try to change it. I mean, it was a strange situation, but I think 5 of the 7 students registered for the class had already bought their books. So at that point, they had to return their books, they had to get a different book, and it was a huge headache. The bookstore will take books back. If it's within 2 weeks of the class start, students can return their books for a full refund, but they do have to pay to ship them back. They have to deal with packing them up to pay to ship them back. So these are the kind of things we obviously want to avoid, because our students, we were talking about this another thing, that we don't want to think of students as our customers, but they are kind of, in a sense, I like the word constituent, like what they use for politicians, for our legislators. They are our constituency. They are the people that we are here for. So a lot of what we try to do in the library and with the textbook coordinator position is to make life easier for the students and to make it so that we can all work together so that students get what they need and faculty have the freedom to do what they want with their courses. So that's why we really don't like to change anything. See over here in the center, we have the reserves. This is another area where there's been some confusion. If the library owns a copy of a current textbook, we will put it on reserve automatically. However, this is where the confusion has happened. We don't have all the textbooks. We don't have most of the textbooks. And we've gotten the last couple terms, at least one question each term, oh, the students come in, my professor told me my book's on reserve. We're like, no it isn't. And every term, the library director sends out a spreadsheet that includes all of the books for all the courses, and in that spreadsheet is columns whether the library has a copy. Whether we have a copy in print, whether we have a copy as an ebook. A lot of times, and something that the director is trying to do, is if we can get it as an ebook, almost always she will do that. So we're really trying to help improve access for students in that way, because we've realized that one of the reasons why we have less reserves in print is because so many of our Central Penn students don't take on-ground classes. Or even if they do, it's not their computers and they can't come to the library to use the materials. So if we get an ebook access, all of our students online, Lancaster, because we've had a lot of Lancaster students ask about reserve books. With the ebooks, that's one of the things that we've been trying to do to help them. So scroll down a little more. So textbook changes. This is another thing. There used to be like a form and a whole process. Now it's, if you want to change, this should make it easier. You would talk, as a faculty member, you would talk to your program chair and say, hey, this course, I think the book doesn't work anymore, or we don't need it, or something like that. But I'm under the impression that's not necessarily happening. So you can encourage that, like I said, changing the textbook isn't a problem for me on our end in the bookstore. The bookstore, whether they like it or not, I don't care. If the textbook, changing the textbook works for the faculty, that's what we're interested in. So it can happen, but again, it has to happen in a certain time frame so the bookstore can get the new books for the students. Another thing, go down a little more, another thing that has happened recently is the use of courseware. And when we say courseware, that's kind of almost anything that's not like a print, not like a textbook, but is an extra thing. Like McGraw-Hill Connect Learn Smart program, that's courseware. I know, Nikki, in medical assisting, you use a program, SimChart, which is super because it lets students actually have a chance to work with electronic health records, which are obviously extremely important in the medical assisting field. So like I said, courseware is wonderful, but that's another thing that has logistics behind it that we need to know ahead of time. That was actually one of the first things when they started using the SimChart that we realized that we absolutely had to have the access available to students in the school bookstore. because I think the very first term we had a couple students, they could not purchase it directly from the publisher. Because pretty much all these things you can buy directly from the publisher, but to do that, you have to have a credit card or a debit card. And some of our students did not, so we had to use a school credit card, pay the publisher, and it was a huge mess. So we can just, and this is the kind of thing, we just need to know about it. Again, we don't make the decisions of whether you should use it or not. We just need to know ahead of time so that the bookstore can offer it and the students can have that easy way to pay for it. Another thing is if you're going to use courseware, hopefully it's available through the cloud. We have a course that's been using some software that students download onto their own computer. Some students might not have their own computer to download a software program too. Another one is particular accounting software. The company does not make it for Macs. That's just they just don't make it for Macs at all. And I didn't know that as a textbook coordinator, and we've been using this book for years. And I finally found out that, oh, Mac users have a problem with this. That's the kind of information, I mean, if you want to use it, there's ways around that. So basically we ended up loaning one of our library laptops to a student for most of the term, past term, so they could use that to complete their coursework, which isn't necessary. If we know about it ahead of time, we can do that. But we didn't know until the class had already started, and the poor student is behind, and they lived in like Lebanon, so they had to drive back and forth. It was, for a lot of these things, we just need to know about it ahead of time, is kind of the main thing that we're trying to say with this, is that I didn't even know. And like I said, because these are the sort of things that we post messages for the students. Yes, students don't read everything. Students don't always read the directions. This is true. I'm not saying that they do, but we need to post the information so that when they say, I didn't know that, we all can say, it was posted in the book information, it was posted on the bookstore. I'm sorry that you didn't know, but that helps cover us when they come and are grumpy. So, when we're talking about courseware, again, we just need to know about that sort of thing. All right, scroll back up for me. Let's quick and go to, click on the copyright one. So one of the things that I put in the blurb about this was how the library can help with textbook alternatives. One of the things that we can do is we can help you look at library resources that we already pay for and that the student's tuition already pays for. There's a lot of resources that we have, I think people don't realize that we have, that you can use depending on what your course is, obviously. And the first question on here is, developing an online course, as we have more and more of those, what can you use in your course legally? So that any library resource, we have full text ebooks, we have documentary films, we have articles, journal articles available in full text through several databases. Any of those items you could embed in a Blackboard course and use legally for the students. They wouldn't have to pay for it other than what they already are in their tuition. And you can use this. We have several courses that have used basically readings from ebooks. They've used documentary films as source material for the course. Now, obviously, that works better in maybe an upper level seminar course. I know Professor Rainier did Race and Gender a term or two ago. She had the students buy one book. It was a memoir. So it was an inexpensive book, and then she used readings from various ebooks that we already had access to for free, paid for by the tuition, for the students to read as a source material for the course. Now, obviously, that doesn't work if you have a medical assisting course or a business course, different kind of courses. But these are the things to think about. Depending on what your course is, do we have material that would already cover that? And a lot of the ebooks that we have, some of them even are textbooks, or they could be textbooks, or they're collections of essays that could be used for a class. So Sam, could you scroll, let's see. Okay, go down to, keep going down. Okay, stop. I have a textbook and periodical I'm going to share with my students, but I don't want to make them buy it. How many pages am I legally allowed to scan or copy and post in Blackboard? The answer is 0. yes, it is an educational purpose. However, fair use isn't just about if you're in an educational institution, you could do whatever you want. Part of the fair use factors are what is the nature of the item? Why was the item that you're looking at created? If it was a textbook, the entire purpose of the textbook being created was to sell it to students. So if you're trying to post information that's from a textbook so they don't have to buy it, that's your answer. So, however, if there's information, say you're looking at one chapter in one textbook and one chapter in another textbook. No, we don't want to make the students buy two $200 books to have a chapter. But what we can do in the library is we can help you create course packs. So if there's a couple articles or chapters or something you want in a couple different books, we can work with you and with the copyright clearance to have you create a book or create course materials that work and hopefully, obviously, will be less expensive than buying 3 books that you use a very small portion of, but you can still do that. And a lot of articles you might want students to read, a lot of those we can get. We might have them in EBSCO or Gale or our databases, or a lot of those we can get and get access, clearance to have you use. We've done that for a number of professors in the past. Another question, I'm not going to, it's related to this, is I found a scanned or PDF copy of a book or journal article or something on the internet. Can I use that? We've had this happen before, where someone had illegally scanned a textbook or found an ebook copy and managed to make it available for free on the internet, but it was a book that was still under copyright. No, you can't have that be in your course for students to use because that you're perpetuating something that's not legal. Sam, can you go back up to the very top? I just want to touch on, we also have the Open Educational Resources information. So yeah, just go ahead and click on that. So if you're interested in books that are free, in material that is free, that's another thing that we in the library can help you look at and find. We have moved to some free books in a couple courses. Statistics class is now using a free statistics book. That book was about $200 if you would buy it new. So now it's free for the students. They can access it for free online. But again, that's statistics. So that is and I know Dr. Grant Ellsworth is using a free online history textbook for his U.S. History Survey courses. But those are both subjects where a lot of the content would be available out there and somebody could put it together and it's available for free. So if you're interested in that, we can help you find those things and find that would work. The statistics book is from an organization called OpenStax. They have a number of textbooks that are written by faculty, by experts in the field, and they include the normal instructor ancillaries like answer keys and test banks and those sort of things. Which for a math book are absolutely essential. You can't, if you're going to switch to a math book, you got to have the answer key. And we, like I said, we in the library understand that's something that is very important to you. So we can help you find things that will work. But that's just another scroll. Sam, can you scroll up? If you click on textbook procedures, finding textbooks, right there. I also have information about, even if you can't find a free textbook, maybe you can find a less expensive textbook. So if you scroll down just a little bit more. Okay, so I have the open textbooks, these are the free ones. eBook Central, again, that is our books that are available through the library that the students pay for through their tuition. There's a couple publishers in the right 2 boxes that are offering less expensive books. Some of these, most of these are about less than $100, and they specifically are trying to lower the cost for students. And the one in the far right, these some of the publishers, and unfortunately, yes, not all subjects are covered by some of the smaller publishers, but depending on what you're looking for, you might be able to find something. And again, that's something we can help you with, or I can help you with in the library, is if you're like, I want to find a new book for my course. Even if you want to look for a traditional textbook. We can help you compile, I can help compile a list of possibilities So you don't have to do that and then send it to you, and then you make the decision as the faculty member of what works for your content. I just say, okay, these are what's out there. So you don't have to spend time, because I'm used to going to publisher websites. I do it all the time. I know what kind of content is available. So that's another thing that the library can do to help. So, do you guys have any questions?
As far as ebooks that are on reserve, is there a time limit the students can use them? I mean, there used to be on reserve in the library, it was 2 hours.
Right. No, there is no time limit. Most of our ebooks, some of them have a limit on simultaneous users. Some of them it's 1 user at a time. There's some other ones that are 3 users at a time. So if a student tries to access one of those and they get denied, but then they'll get notified when it's available again. One of the options for a lot of our ebooks is the students can download a copy to a device to read it offline. Those do have time limits. You can do that for like a week or 2 or 3 weeks. But if you just access it online, there's no limit. You can access it as many times as you want and spend as much time in it as you want. As long as you're just doing it online, basically through the cloud, through the internet. So that's another reason why we're spending library money on textbooks, is because we know that that's a great resource. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming. And we will make sure that this video is available so that other faculty who might be interested can watch it.